And welcome back to Montana this morning. The time is now 6:41 on this Friday. Well, concerns and a call for action echoed throughout the FBI and BIA last week after the recent death of a 14-year-old lame deer girl. On Tuesday, U.S. Senator Jon Tester released a letter to the acting directors of the FBI and the BIA. In it, Tester said the response to Henny Scott's disappearance was inadequate and that she isn't the first. Now, Senator Tester joins us live on set this morning to talk about this issue among other issues facing our state and our country currently. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
All right, so let's dive right in and talk a little bit about the letter. Can you tell us your reasons for, first of all, writing that letter?
Well, I think the federal law enforcement response was totally inadequate, and missing and murdered Indigenous women is a huge issue. And for a 14-year-old girl who had great hopes and dreams of being a doctor, to wait 13 days after disappearance was reported to get out there is a real problem. So I wrote a letter to the FBI and the BIA and asked them to explain their actions and explain how they were going to change them to make it so it works better. I mean, the fact is that if this was happening anywhere else in the country, people would be totally up in arms, and we need a better response from federal law enforcement than what we've been getting in missing and murdered Indigenous women, and what we got in the case of the lame deer girl.
Right, and a report was just released, and it said last year over 24 Native Americans went missing, most of them women. Would you say that delay that you mentioned that you were frustrated with, is that often the case with these missing persons cases?
Well, I can't say if it's that way every time, but I can tell you that many of these cases are never solved, and there's really no reason for it. In fact, last year I believe there was one woman. There may have been two that were found in a timely manner. And I just think this is ridiculous. If we're going to find out what happened to these people and hold the perpetrators responsible, time is of the essence. And the FBI is a good outfit, the BIA is a good outfit. They just need to step it up.
All right, and my last question just on this same subject. Now, last month you held a Senate hearing on this exact same subject, and then also your letter just most recently. What needs to happen now after those two letters or incidents?
In a word, communication. I think not only communication between law enforcement and the families, but law enforcement and federal law enforcement and local law enforcement to make sure that nothing's fallen through the cracks. And timeliness of investigation is also really important, and thoroughness of those investigations is really important. So I think more than anything, it's timeliness and communication.
And staying on the issue of Native issues, now Montana's congressional delegation introduced a bill this week that would grant the Little Shell tribe federal recognition. It also was just blocked in the Senate just last month. Now this bill would grant the federal tribe federal recognition, and among many things would give them access to resources including healthcare, education, and housing. And both, of course, Tester and Daines introduced this bipartisan bill on the Senate floor recently, and Gianforte also introduced that bill to the House on Wednesday. So as we're getting very close to actually seeing this thing come through, what are some of those kind of last-minute obstacles that you foresee coming up?
Well, let's hope we're getting close to see it come through. The Little Shell has been working for generations,
right?
And we were this close last Congress. Mike Lee stopped it, senator from Utah. I think the information is there.
Right.
The Little Shell, like I said, has been working on this for 3 or 4 generations. It's been a long time coming. The information is there that shows they have rights to recognition. It's something that when I was in the state legislature, it was a bill that the state legislature passed with strong support to tell the federal government to offer the Little Shell recognition. And we've been working on it for years and years at the federal level. So look, I think it's time they get their recognition. I think it's something that is long overdue. And if in fact we can get the folks in Congress to step up and do their job, they'll get their recognition. Right. And I think that the chairman of the Little Shell right now is a guy by the name of Chairman Gray, and he is all over this and been working very hard, as by the way they have for decades.
Right. And you know, one of the things that really sticks out in my mind is bipartisanship with this. I mean, it's not just Democrats, it's not just Republicans, everybody's coming together.
That's
so
correct.
Speak a little bit on, you know, actually coming together to get things done.
Yes, well, the entire delegation is behind this. They understand, the whole delegation from Montana is serving in Washington, D.C., understand the importance of this for the little shell. And I think we understand the issue. And I think as we move forward with this, it's just getting everybody else that we serve with to understand the issue. There's not reservations in every state, so Indian issues aren't front and center like they are in states that have Indian reservations. So it's an educational process. And unfortunately, it only takes one to screw things up in the Senate, and we had one guy screw it up. Yeah. And we've just got to get on it and continue to push and continue to hold people accountable.
Right. Right on.
Well, let's move on to another issue that's facing our country, that's been facing our country for over 2 weeks. Now we're on day 21 of the government shutdown with no end in sight just after we passed the new Farm Bill last month. Now, is the shutdown affecting the Farm Bill or anything that would affect farmers, ranchers here in our state?
Absolutely. You know, they call it a partial shutdown, and it is a partial shutdown because agencies like the VA are able to stay open. But the farm service agencies in the state are shut down. That makes a big difference for people in production agriculture as they plan for the next growing season. And we did, as you pointed out, we put out a new farm bill. It's a good farm bill. There aren't a lot of changes in it, but still the changes that are there, farmers need to know about. And as I've said before, this shutdown is nothing short of ridiculous. The truth of the matter is that before we ended Congress in December, we passed a bill to keep the government open. The president said he was going to sign that bill, then after watching news reports in the morning, we are told that he chose not to sign it. And now we're in the middle of a 3-week-long shutdown. It could go much, much longer than that. And people are going to go without paychecks today that need them. Like we talked about the impacts on agriculture, there's impacts on small businesses. The impacts go throughout our economy, and it's totally unnecessary. Let's have the debate about whether the best way to secure the borders with a wall, but don't shut down the government in the process.
All right. And kind of refocusing on that a little bit as well, and farmers and ranchers, you know, it seems like just as soon as they got a little bit of certainty, especially with banking and finances, now this comes in. So talk a little bit about how this is kind of throwing a curveball at farmers and ranchers and the banking industry, for instance, and the uncertainty of being a farmer and rancher.
Well, I mean, look, we're dependent on weather, we're dependent on markets. We're you know, with the trade war that's going on, there's uncertainty created with our foreign markets. So there is a lot of uncertainty in agriculture. It's inherent to the business. But what the Farm Bill is supposed to do is give that safety net, give that certainty so that you can go to the bank, get that operating loan, and be able to move forward. What happens now, and you can call the offices today, they're not open. People are not working, they're not getting paid, and quite frankly, this is the time of year that you plan for that spring planting that's only a few months away. It might feel like summer in the middle of winter now, but in a few months it's going to be April, and tractors are going to be churning, and we're going to be putting seed in the ground. You have to plan for that. That FSA agency is a big part of it. That farm program is a big part of it. I wish it didn't have to be. I wish we could do it all through the markets, but the truth is we are where we are, and we've been here for 50, 60 years, and we need to know information about that farm bill before you before you're able to go to work, actually.
Right, and I'm sure that's something you can relate to, you know, being a farmer right here in Montana as well.
I tried calling the office last week, as a matter of fact, and then they're not there, they're not in, and it can be solved, and it can be solved with folks, like you said, working together in Washington, D.C., to you know, have the debate on the wall. Border security is really important, but don't shut down farm service agencies, and don't shut down all these other agencies that people depend upon for their livelihoods.
Very good. Yeah, it's been kind of nice to be able to set that example here in Montana with a little bit of bipartisanship work.
On.
Hopefully we can spread it around.
That's how we built the state, by people working together.
No kidding. Well, thank you so much again, U.S. Senator Jon Tester, for coming in. We'll send it over to you, Elizabeth.